You never expected the night to twist like that, did you? 1 minute you were just being decent, picking up a stranger's dropped wallet, offering a hand, holding the door, whatever ordinary kindness people pretend they're too busy for. You weren't thinking about the consequences. You weren't thinking about who watched, who judged, who feared the idea that you might actually be a good person in a world that feeds on suspicion. You simply acted. They saw it as foolish. They whispered that helping someone is just an invitation to be taken advantage of. They treated your kindness like a weakness. Yet that tiny moment, that spark of decency, was the one thing that rewired the game. Because the man you help, the one they mocked you for caring about, carries a badge, a gun, and the authority to rewrite entire fates with a single phone call. Funny how a simple gesture rearranges the entire balance of power. Then comes the part they never saw coming. You didn't say anything when they laughed at you. You didn't defend yourself. You didn't beg anyone to understand what you were doing. You just stayed silent. That silence dug deeper into their minds than any argument you could have made. They thought it meant you were clueless. They thought it meant you were soft. They thought you were exactly the kind of person who gets stepped on. Little did they know that silence is a weapon more dangerous than any punch or threat. It lets the world fill in its own fears, its own assumptions, its own ugly reflections. While they snickered, the man you helped stared at you with the kind of attention only someone trained to read human nature can give. And in that moment, his eyes weren't judging you. They were calculating you. The twist really begins when their disrespect starts to age like rotten fruit. Suddenly, this random stranger wants your contact information. Suddenly, he knows your name before you even tell him. Suddenly, his questions cut through the noise around you, and the people who mocked you earlier begin to wonder why the air feels heavier. They watch him walk beside you like someone who already decided you matter, and they hate it because it reminds them that the world is bigger than their pettiness, and your silence allowed you to rise above their tiny little social games. They can't understand why someone with authority, someone with access to secrets, files, networks, suddenly looks at you with interest that isn't casual. That terrifies them more than anything. What unsettles them even deeper is the realization that you didn't plan any of this. You didn't scheme or manipulate or chase approval. You acted from instinct, and that instinct exposed everything they've been hiding behind. They rely on tricks. You rely on authenticity. They operate through envy. You operate through alignment. The randomness of your action breaks their entire worldview because it proves that the universe doesn't reward noise. It rewards presence, kindness, precision, things they pretend are useless until they watch those qualities elevate someone they dismissed as insignificant. Their panic starts quietly, in the shifting of eyes, in the tightening of jaws. They don't know whether to envy you or fear you, and they won't admit that both emotions are eating them alive. Meanwhile, the stranger you helped reveals he isn't just some lost wanderer. He's an FBI agent working undercover, And not the movie type with sunglasses and dramatic music. The real version. The kind trained to detect micro expressions, lies, intent, danger. He tells you he saw something in you that people rarely show anymore. A form of strength that doesn't need to perform. A form of honesty that doesn't need a spotlight. A form of awareness that doesn't beg. He tells you he knew from the moment you acted that you weren't one of them. The ones who only move when eyes are watching. He knew you had control over your impulses rather than being controlled by them. And that control is rare. That control is dangerous. That control is power. Strength becomes something entirely different when it no longer depends on applause. It grows sharper, heavier, and far more dangerous because it comes from a place no one else can reach. A person who stops waiting for approval begins to operate on a frequency that unnerves the entire room. People feel the shift before they understand it. The posture changes. The gaze changes. The silence becomes intentional. Anyone built from the inside out carries a presence that others built from the outside in cannot imitate. And the beauty of this transformation is that nothing dramatic needs to happen. No grand announcement. No heroic music. Just a quiet refusal to bend for comfort. Suddenly the world senses a type of stability it has no language for, and that mystery alone becomes its own version of power. There's a strange freedom hidden in the moment when external validation loses its grip. Most never reach it because dependency masquerades as connection. They cling to feedback as if it can save them, not realizing it only traps them in roles they never chose. But once internal certainty takes the lead, something primal awakens. Choices stop being reactions. Words stop being bait. Emotions stop being manipulated. Even the air around such a person feels heavier, as if the environment itself becomes aware. It can no longer sway the mind standing in front of it. And the best part is how unexpected it looks from the outside. People confuse calmness for softness, while missing the storm quietly rearranging itself behind the eyes. Confidence acquired through acceptance crumbles the moment approval disappears. Confidence acquired through self-alignment becomes permanent. That distinction separates those controlled by the world from those who walk through it untouched. When the center of gravity sits within the chest rather than in the opinions of others, every movement becomes deliberate. Every pause becomes strategic. Every moment of silence becomes a mirror that forces others to confront their own insecurities. This kind of groundedness is unsettling to witness because it exposes how fragile most social hierarchies really are. Power built on perception collapses under the weight of power built on conviction. People who rely on external recognition fear those who don't. Nothing terrifies a crowd more than someone who carries themselves without needing the crowd at all. It disrupts their sense of control. It challenges their belief that importance must be granted by majority vote. When someone stands firm without waiting for permission, it breaks an unspoken rule of society, the rule that requires dependence to maintain hierarchy. But the moment that rule is broken, everything becomes possible. Paths open that were once hidden. Opportunities gravitate toward the individual who broadcasts certainty instead of desperation. And interestingly, the very same people who once withheld validation begin to imitate the posture of the one they underestimated. Some environments feed off insecurity, shaping it into a currency. The moment that currency loses value, everything feeding on it starts to collapse. No one knows what to do with a person who can walk away without flinching. No one knows how to manipulate someone who no longer fears being misunderstood. And no one knows how to sabotage someone who refuses to attach identity to the opinions swirling around them. This psychological independence becomes a form of quiet domination. It doesn't bark. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand anything. Yet it rearranges the social atmosphere with a single step. That is the beauty of inwardly generated stability. It creates authority without requiring noise. There's a fascinating shift that happens inside the mind when self-trust becomes stronger than external influence. The world stops feeling like a battlefield and starts feeling like a stage built to test endurance. Interactions change. Pressure changes. Even conflict changes. Instead of reacting, the mind observes. Instead of absorbing chaos, the spirit filters it. Instead of collapsing under judgment, the internal compass stays locked on its path. This kind of clarity disturbs anyone who relies on confusion to control outcomes.